Do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. Sounds bold, doesn't it? But it's true. Toxic people feed off one thing, your reaction. They thrive on your energy, your explanations, your attempts to justify yourself. They don't necessarily care about the truth, they care about the drama. And the moment you stop giving them what they want, you cut off the oxygen that fuels their fire. Think about it. Every time you defend yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, you're entering a game that you cannot win. They already decided who you are in their mind. They already wrote your character in their story. And you're wasting breath trying to edit a script that you never wrote. That's why the key isn't to fight back, explain more, or outsmart them. The key is to disengage, to let silence say what words never can. Here's the shift. The next time a toxic person tries to bait you into a fight, tries to question your character or twist your words, don't explain, don't argue, don't defend. Just stop, give them nothing. Because the first time you refuse to play, the game ends. They're left holding their own words, their own accusations, and no opponent to throw them against. That's how you win without even stepping on the battlefield. This isn't about being passive, it's about being powerful. Because power isn't proven by how loud you get or how clever your comebacks are. Real power is calm. Real power doesn't need an audience. Real power is walking away knowing you don't need to prove anything. And the first time you show a toxic person that their tactics don't work on you, something shifts forever. They'll either stop or they'll go find someone else to drain because you just made yourself unavailable. Do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. That's a statement that almost sounds too good to be true, but it's not, because toxic people, no matter how loud, manipulative, or intimidating they seem, rely on one very simple thing: you giving them permission. Not permission in the way you might think, not you verbally saying, yes, you may treat me like this, but permission in the form of your responses, your explanations, your willingness to engage. That's the fuel they run on. And the second you take that fuel away, they can't go very far. Most of the time, when someone comes at us sideways, when someone criticizes us unfairly, spreads rumors, or tries to make us feel small, our first instinct is to react. We defend ourselves, we argue back, we try to prove we're right. It feels natural because we're human. Nobody wants to be misunderstood. Nobody wants their name dragged through the mud. But here's the problem. When you argue with a toxic person, you think you're fixing the misunderstanding, but in reality, you're feeding the cycle. You're giving them exactly what they want: your time, your emotions, your peace. And trust me, they know it. Think about it like this. Imagine you're at a poker table and the person across from you is bluffing with a terrible hand. If you fold and walk away, they can't win anything from you. They're just sitting there with nothing. But if you keep throwing chips into the pot, even though their hand is garbage, you're letting them win off of your own money. That's what happens with toxic people. They bluff with lies, manipulation, and drama, but if you call their bluff by staying silent and walking away, their entire power crumbles. The first time you do that, everything changes. But here's why it's hard. Silence feels unnatural when someone's attacking us. You want to correct them? You want to make them see the truth? You want to protect your name, your reputation, your dignity. And that's not wrong. That instinct is built into us because we value fairness. But fairness doesn't live in the world of toxic people. They don't play by those rules. They're not interested in the truth. They're interested in control. And when you realize that, you start to see why silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Let me tell you something. There is nothing more unsettling to a toxic person than your calm. They expect chaos. They expect yelling. They expect long explanations they can twist back on you. They expect you to break down trying to prove yourself. But when you look at them, maybe nod, maybe smile, and then disengage. That rattles them. That shakes something inside them because now they realize they can't control you anymore. And toxic people without control are powerless. This doesn't mean you're cold. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're done auditioning for roles in a play you never signed up for. It means you're done playing defense in a game that never had a referee. It means you understand that your worth isn't up for debate and therefore doesn't require a defense. When you live from that place, toxic people lose their grip on you. But let's get real. This is not easy. If you've spent years explaining yourself, trying to keep the peace, or making sure everyone likes you, this will feel uncomfortable at first. You'll feel guilty for walking away. You'll feel rude for not responding. You'll feel like maybe you're letting them win. But you're not. You're training yourself to value your peace more than their opinion. And the first time you do this, you'll see it. That knot in your stomach starts to loosen. That weight on your shoulders starts to lift. Because for once you chose you. Toxic people are like mosquitoes. They hover around, buzzing in your ear, trying to suck your energy. And if you swat at them every time, they just keep coming back. But if you make yourself unavailable, if you stop giving them your skin, your attention, your time, they eventually leave and look for another target. That's not cruelty. That's nature. And in relationships, it's survival. I know some of you are thinking, but what if that toxic person is family? What if it's a coworker? What if it's someone I can't completely cut off? Great question. The answer is boundaries. Silence doesn't always mean you disappear completely. Sometimes it means you limit access. It means you stop explaining yourself when they question you. It means you keep your answers short and neutral. It means you stop trying to win them over and instead you hold the line. Because the truth is, you don't have to go no contact with every toxic person in your life, but you do have to stop giving them unlimited access to your emotions. Let's paint a picture. Imagine you're at work and there's that one coworker who always has something slick to say. They criticize your work in front of others. They twist your words in meetings. They drop little sarcastic comments hoping to get a rise out of you. Normally, you'd defend yourself. You'd explain your process, try to prove your point, maybe even argue back. And what happens? You go home drained. You replay the conversation in your head all night. You lose sleep over it. Now imagine this instead. They make their little jab and you just smile, maybe say noted, and go back to your work. No defense, no energy, just calm. Suddenly they're left standing there with nothing to work with. Over time, they get bored. Why? Because you stopped playing their game. That's the power of doing this once. And the beautiful thing is, this doesn't just protect you. It teaches others how to treat you. Every time you engage in drama, you're signaling to people, this is how you get my attention. But the moment you stop rewarding toxic behavior with your energy, you're signaling something different. This doesn't work on me. And the best part, you only have to do it once to send that message loud and clear. Now, some people will test you. Toxic people don't give up easily. They'll push harder, get louder, maybe even act like victims to make you chase them. But stand firm, because the storm they create isn't proof of your weakness. It's proof of their desperation. And when you don't bend, when you don't bite, they eventually realize that no matter how much noise they make, you're not moving. That's when the peace comes. And let me say this, peace doesn't always mean they go away. Sometimes peace just means they stay toxic, but you stop caring. You stop giving them prime real estate in your head. You stop rehearsing arguments in the shower. You stop explaining yourself to people who already made up their minds. And the freedom in that, it's priceless. Because life is too short to keep auditioning for the approval of people who wouldn't clap for you even if you won. So do this once. Refuse to defend yourself to someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. Do this once and let silence hold the weight that words can't. Do this once and see how quickly toxic people realize they've lost their grip. Because the truth is, the most powerful statement you'll ever make is not made with words. It's made with restraint. And when you get good at this, something else happens. You start to notice who really deserves your energy. The people who ask questions to understand, not to attack. The people who support you even when they don't fully get it. The people who see your mistakes as human, not ammunition. Those are your people. That's where your energy belongs. And the more you practice holding your power with toxic people, the more energy you have left for the people who actually deserve it. Do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. It almost sounds like a shortcut to peace, but in reality, it's not a shortcut at all. It's discipline. Because the hardest thing you'll ever do is choose not to respond when every part of you wants to defend yourself. The hardest thing you'll ever do is bite your tongue when you know you could crush them with your words. The hardest thing you'll ever do is keep your calm when someone is pushing every button, testing every limit, and daring you to explode. But here's the truth, your calm isn't weakness, it's strength. Your silence isn't submission, it's strategy. And once you understand that, toxic people lose their power over you completely. Let's talk about why toxic people bother you in the first place. They bother you because you care. You care about your name. You care about fairness. You care about being understood. And that's a beautiful quality. It means you're human. But here's where it backfires. You cannot win fairness from someone who thrives on chaos. You cannot win understanding from someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. And you cannot protect your peace by constantly defending it. Protection doesn't always look like armor and weapons. Sometimes protection looks like walking off the battlefield altogether. You ever notice how some people never seem to get rattled? You could throw insults, lies, accusations, and they just stand there calm as ever. That's not because they don't feel it. It's because they know a secret. Your opinion doesn't define them. Toxic people lose their grip the second you stop arguing with them, because arguments only make them stronger. Silence, though. Silence starves them. Silence leaves them with nothing to feed on. Silence forces them to face their own noise without your energy fueling it. Now, here's what usually happens. The first time you refuse to defend yourself, it feels uncomfortable. You'll replay the moment in your head. You'll think, I should have said this. I should have corrected that. I should have defended myself better. That's your old wiring talking. That's the people pleaser in you fighting to survive. But the more you practice, the more you realize that not defending yourself is not losing, it's winning differently. Because winning doesn't always mean proving them wrong. Sometimes winning means proving to yourself that you no longer need their approval. Toxic people are like quicksand. The more you fight, the deeper you sink. Every defense you make, every explanation you give, every tear you shed, it pulls you further down. But the moment you go still, the moment you stop thrashing, you start to rise. That's why doing this once is enough. It breaks the cycle. It rewires your instinct. It reminds you that you are not obligated to answer every accusation. You are not required to explain every choice. You are not responsible for teaching people who don't want to learn. Some of you have been drained for years by the same toxic person. Maybe it's a parent who never approves, no matter what you do. Maybe it's a friend who constantly takes but never gives. Maybe it's a partner who twists every argument until you're the one apologizing. And for so long, you've defended yourself, hoping they'd finally get it. But deep down, you know they won't. And here's the truth that sets you free. They don't have to. They don't have to understand you. They don't have to approve of you. They don't have to validate you, because your worth was never built on their agreement. Your worth was built on something deeper, something untouchable. And the moment you realize that, you stop handing them the keys to your peace. Now, I know the fear. What if I don't defend myself and people believe the lies? What if I stay silent and my reputation suffers? What if they think they've won? Let me tell you something. Time always exposes truth. Lies may run fast, but truth has endurance. People with wisdom and discernment will see through the drama eventually, and those who don't, they were never meant to be in your corner anyway. You don't need to waste your energy convincing people who are already rooting against you. Because here's the reality: your life, your character, your actions will always speak louder than any toxic person's words. Picture this. You're in a room full of people. Someone stands up and starts throwing accusations at you. You could stand up, argue, explain, shout, and match their energy. Or you could stay calm, stay grounded, let them rant, and then go about your business. Which one leaves a bigger impression? Which one leaves people thinking, wow, they didn't even flinch? That's the power of composure. That's the strength of restraint. And toxic people hate it because it robs them of the attention they crave. And let me remind you, doing this once doesn't just affect them, it affects you. It builds a muscle inside you. The muscle of self-control, the muscle of inner peace, the muscle of emotional intelligence. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. And soon, you won't just be unbothered by toxic people, you'll be unstoppable. Because once you master your reaction, you master your life. Some of you are battling toxic environments daily, at work, at home, even in friendships you've outgrown. And you've been waiting for the perfect comeback, the perfect defense, the perfect moment to finally shut them down. But here's the truth: the perfect defense is no defense at all. The perfect response is not giving them one. The perfect win is walking away with your peace intact. Because toxic people don't deserve your best words, your best energy, your best self. Save that for the people who love you, who support you, who want to see you win. And once you do this, something powerful happens. Toxic people may still exist around you, but they'll stop bothering you. They'll stop renting space in your head. They'll stop draining your spirit. because you'll have learned that their words only carry as much weight as you decide to give them. And the moment you stop giving them weight, they become weightless, just noise, just background static, nothing more. So here's the truth. Do this once and you'll never go back. Do this once and you'll taste a level of peace you didn't know existed. Do this once and you'll realize how much of your life you've wasted defending yourself to people who never deserve that access. And the beautiful thing, you can start today. No matter how long you've been stuck in the cycle, no matter how many times you've explained, defended, or argued, today can be the day you stop. Today can be the day you choose peace over proving. Today can be the day you let your silence speak for you. Because silence is not empty. Silence is full. It's full of strength, it's full of power, and it's full of freedom. And when toxic people hear your silence, they hear the loudest message you could ever send. You no longer control me. Do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. That one choice has the power to shift your entire life, because toxic people don't just take your time, they take your energy, your peace, your joy, your focus. And the truth is, they only get what you allow them to get. It doesn't always feel that way because they come at you with so much force, so much persistence, so much manipulation that it feels like you have no choice but to respond. But you do. You always do. And the moment you make that choice, you step into a level of freedom that no toxic person can take away. Every toxic person is trying to sell you the same thing: engagement. They want to sell you the idea that if you just defend yourself enough, they'll finally back off. If you just explain yourself the right way, they'll finally understand. If you just fight hard enough, you'll finally win. But here's the truth. They're not looking for truth. They're looking for control. And every time you defend yourself, you're buying what they're selling. You're paying with your peace. You're paying with your energy. You're paying with your sanity. And it's not worth the price. Now, I know how hard it is to break this cycle. Maybe you grew up defending yourself to a critical parent, so now it feels natural to defend yourself to everyone. Maybe you've always been the peacemaker, trying to keep relationships together by explaining, by clarifying, by smoothing things over. Maybe you've been conditioned to think that silence means weakness, that if you don't fight back, you're letting people walk all over you. But that's not true. Silence doesn't mean surrender. Silence means strategy. Silence means you refuse to give free rent in your head to people who don't deserve it. And the first time you choose silence, something happens inside of you. You feel the pull to argue, to explain, to set the record straight, but you resist. You feel the guilt of not responding, but you resist. You feel the fear of what others might think, but you resist. And then you notice something. You didn't lose anything. You didn't die from someone misunderstanding you. You didn't crumble because someone told a lie about you. You're still here. And not only are you still here, you're lighter. You're freer. You're calmer. That's the power of doing this once. Imagine how much more energy you'd have if you stopped defending yourself to people who aren't listening. Imagine how much more peace you'd feel if you stopped engaging in battles that don't matter. Imagine how much more progress you'd make if you stopped explaining your every move to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. That's the life waiting for you on the other side of this decision. And yes, it will be tested. The moment you decide to stop defending yourself, the toxic people in your life will push harder. They'll throw bigger accusations. They'll act louder. They'll try to make you feel guilty, selfish, even cruel. They'll tell you you've changed. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. You've grown. You've stepped into a strength they can't control anymore. And that's exactly why they're panicking. Their grip is slipping, and they know it. So don't mistake their noise for your weakness. Their noise is proof of your strength. Sometimes doing this once doesn't just silence the toxic people. It reveals the supportive ones. Because the people who really care about you won't demand endless explanations. They won't drain you with constant criticism. They won't punish you for choosing peace. They'll respect your boundaries. They'll honor your growth. They'll cheer for your calm. And when you stop wasting your breath on people who don't matter, you suddenly have so much more room to breathe life into the people who do. Here's something else that happens when you stop defending yourself. Your confidence grows. Because confidence isn't built by convincing others you're right. Confidence is built by knowing you don't have to. The moment you stop auditioning for other people's approval, you start living from your own validation. And that kind of confidence, it's unshakable. It doesn't matter what they say about you because you know who you are. It doesn't matter what lies they spread because your actions speak louder than any rumor ever could. It doesn't matter if they clap or not because you've stopped performing for them altogether. You can't control what people say. You can't control how they think. You can't control the stories they tell about you, but you can control whether or not you let it touch your peace. You can control whether or not you step into the fight. You can control whether or not you hand them the keys to your emotions. And the first time you choose not to, you'll feel it. The shift, the freedom, the power. And let me say this isn't about being cold or unkind. It's not about cutting everyone off or refusing to communicate. It's about discernment. It's about knowing the difference between someone who genuinely wants to understand you and someone who just wants to drain you. One of them deserves your explanation. The other does not, and you're wise enough to know the difference. So do this once. Refuse to engage. Refuse to explain. Refuse to defend. Hold your peace. Keep your calm. And watch how fast toxic people lose interest. Watch how quickly the power shifts. Watch how clearly you see who deserves your energy and who doesn't. Because the truth is, toxic people don't just bother you because they're toxic. They bother you because you let them. And once you decide not to, they don't stand a chance. Do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. The beauty of this choice is that it isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, it isn't something that needs to be broadcast. It's quiet, it's subtle, it's inward. Because the real battle with toxic people isn't out there, it's in here. It's inside your mind, inside your emotions, inside the way you decide to respond. They can throw all the noise they want in your direction, but if you refuse to open the door, it can't reach you. Most of the damage toxic people comes from the access we give them. Think about that. Their words can't touch you unless you carry them with you. Their actions can't drain you unless you keep replaying them in your head. Their accusations can't crush you unless you start believing them. And once you stop defending yourself, you stop carrying their baggage. You stop dragging their words into your future. You stop letting their poison sit in your veins. And suddenly, you're lighter, freer, stronger. This doesn't mean they'll stop talking. They might not. In fact, some may talk louder when they realize you're not engaging. They'll tell stories, they'll twist narratives, they'll even try to paint you as the problem. But here's the truth. Your silence speaks louder than any defense you could ever give. Because people who know you, people who truly see your character, they don't need your defense. They see your life. They see your patterns. They see your consistency. And those who are quick to believe the lies, they were never on your side anyway. There's a line you have to draw in your life. Not everyone gets access to your energy. Not everyone deserves your explanations. Not everyone is worthy of your defense. That doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you wise. Because your peace is precious, your energy is sacred, and your focus is limited. And the more you spend defending yourself against people who don't matter, the less you have left for the people who do. And here's something powerful. When you stop defending yourself, you stop being predictable. Toxic people rely on your predictability. They know what buttons to push. They know what words trigger you. They know how to get under your skin. But when you don't react the way they expect, when you don't rise to the bait, when you don't explain, suddenly they lose their playbook. They're standing there with no script, no plan, no control. And that unsettles them more than anything, that unsettled feeling they get. That's the beginning of your freedom, because in that moment, they realize they don't own you anymore. They realize their words no longer control you. They realize their tactics don't work. And once they realize that, one of two things happens. Either they stop trying or they go find someone else to drain. Either way, you win. And maybe the most important thing is this: when you stop defending yourself, you teach yourself something vital. You teach yourself that your worth doesn't come from being understood. You teach yourself that your peace doesn't depend on other people's opinions. You teach yourself that you are enough without their validation. And once you learn that lesson, it changes the way you walk into every room, every relationship, every situation. You stop shrinking to prove yourself. You stop explaining every detail of your life. You stop overthinking what they might say. You just live. You just breathe. You just exist without apology. That's why I say do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. Because the first time you do it, you'll see the truth. You had the power all along. They only bothered you because you let them. They only drained you because you gave them access. They only controlled you because you believed you had to defend yourself. And the second you stop, the second you take that power back, you realize they never had it in the first place. And from that day on, you're different. You're calmer, you're stronger, you're freer. Not because the toxic people disappeared, but because they no longer live rent free in your head. Not because the lies stopped, but because you stopped trying to correct them. Not because the noise got quieter, but because you stopped giving it volume. That's the transformation. That's the shift. That's the gift you give yourself when you finally decide no more defense. Do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. Because once you've tasted the power of peace, you'll never want to go back to chaos. Once you've learned that silence can carry more weight than 1,000 explanations, you'll never waste energy defending yourself again. It only takes one experience to prove to yourself that you don't need to fight every battle to win the war. Think about how much time in your life you've spent explaining yourself. To parents, to bosses, to friends, to people online, to people who never really cared about the truth in the first place. Think about all the hours you've lost trying to be understood by someone who was determined to misunderstand you. That's energy you'll never get back. But here's the beautiful part. You don't need to keep losing it. You can make a different choice right now. The first time you decide not to defend yourself, you'll feel the pull. You'll feel the words rising up in your chest. You'll feel the urge to explain, to fight, to make them see. But if you breathe, if you pause, if you choose calm over chaos, something shifts. You'll see how quickly the storm loses its power when you don't step into it. You'll feel how much lighter your body is when you don't carry their accusations around all day. You'll realize how much stronger you are when you don't need their agreement to validate your truth. And this isn't just about toxic people out there. It's about the toxic voice in here. Because let's be honest, the most toxic critic you'll ever face is your own mind. That voice that says, you're not good enough. You should have said more. You should have defended yourself. That voice that replays every argument long after it's over. That voice that convinces you that silence is weakness. That's the voice you're really silencing when you choose peace. You're training yourself to trust your worth without outside approval. You're teaching yourself that your value doesn't decrease just because someone else can't see it. The first time you hold back your defense, it feels like you're letting them win. But with time, you'll see that the only person you're letting win is you. You're winning your energy back. You're winning your focus back. You're winning your peace back. And what's more valuable than that? Nothing, because peace is priceless. Do this once and you'll realize something powerful. Not every accusation deserves an answer. Not every question deserves a response. Not every attack deserves your energy. When you understand that, you stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop living like a puppet on strings, pulled by the moods and opinions of toxic people, and you start living like the author of your own life. And here's the part nobody tells you. People will respect you more when you stop defending yourself. The ones who matter will see your calm and call it strength. They'll admire the way you carry yourself. They'll notice the way you don't get rattled. And the ones who don't respect it, they'll drift away because without your energy to feed on, they have nothing left to take. Either way, you win. So yes, it's simple. It's quiet. It's one decision. But it's life-changing. Do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. Because once you learn to stop defending yourself, you learn the most important lesson of all you were never obligated to in the first place. Do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. That's not because they suddenly change into kind, supportive, loving people. It's because you've changed. You've grown into someone they can no longer reach. They may still throw words at you. They may still stir up drama. They may still attempt to pull you back into their cycle. But when you no longer give them the satisfaction of your reaction, you break the chain that kept you connected to their control. That's the real victory. Most people believe the way to win against toxicity is to fight harder, to argue better, to gather more proof, to present a flawless defense. But that approach only drags you deeper into their trap. You can't out-argue someone who isn't interested in truth. You can't out-explain someone who is committed to twisting your words. You can't outplay someone who only plays dirty. The only way to win is not to play. And once you understand that, you begin to see toxic behavior for what it really is: noise. Just noise. It sounds loud, it feels disruptive, it shakes the room for a moment. But at the end of the day, noise doesn't have power unless you give it your attention. If you turn down the volume, if you walk out of the room, if you choose not to let it inside of you, it loses its effect. That's what silence does. It turns down the volume of toxicity until it becomes nothing more than background static. The people who try to drag you into conflict want you to think you owe them something. They want you to think you owe them your side of the story, your energy, your explanations, your defenses. But you don't. You owe them nothing. Not your peace, not your time, not your spirit. The moment you decide that, you take your life back. And it only takes one time to feel the freedom of that decision before you realize you never want to go back. Yes, they might keep talking. Yes, they might spread rumors. Yes, they might try to paint you as the villain. But let them talk. Let them show the world who they are, while you quietly show the world who you are. Because eventually, the truth speaks louder than lies. Eventually, character reveals itself. Eventually, consistency shines brighter than accusations. And you don't need to rush that process. You just need to trust it. The first time you do this, you'll feel uncomfortable. It will feel unnatural not to speak up. It will feel heavy to let their words hang in the air unanswered. But that heaviness passes, and what replaces it is strength. Strength that says, I don't need to fight for what's already mine. My peace, my worth, my dignity are not up for debate. That's the kind of strength that toxic people can't touch. And when you carry yourself like that, something amazing happens. You become untouchable, not because the world gets softer, not because people stop being toxic, but because you've built armor from the inside out, an armor made of self-respect, calm, and restraint, an armor that doesn't need to swing back to protect itself. An armor that shines so bright it blinds anyone who tries to come against you. Do this once and toxic people will never bother you again. Not because they stop existing, but because they stop mattering. Their words won't carry the same weight. Their actions won't have the same sting. Their presence won't shake you the way it used to. You'll see them for what they are: noise without power, drama without control, shadows without substance. And here's the best part. You don't just change how you deal with toxic people, you change how you deal with life. You stop explaining yourself in every situation. You stop apologizing for who you are. You stop carrying the burden of other people's opinions. And that shift gives you back so much energy, so much clarity, so much freedom that you can finally focus on building the life you deserve. So remember this: one act of silence, one refusal to defend, one choice to keep your peace. It's enough to rewrite the story. Do this once and you'll never look at toxic people the same way again. So when it all comes down to it, the truth is simple. Toxic people only have the power you give them. Their words, their drama, their accusations, none of it defines you unless you let it. The first time you refuse to defend yourself, the first time you stop feeding the fire with your energy, you'll realize that the control was never in their hands. It was always in yours. That's the moment you step into real freedom. Because peace isn't found in winning arguments, it's found in knowing you don't have to fight them at all. So protect your energy, guard your calm, and remember, silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. And once you learn to stand strong in that silence, toxic people will never be able to touch you again.